biggest ones. Kill your hood, nothing that your paths. I got no hood in this bag. I went to the pump, pushed the 93 button, it felt like a the duck. Yo, what's good? What's good with y'all, man? What's up? What's up? That's bro. Yes. Yes. Kill you, nothing with your paths. Come correct, pause. Okay. Yep. All right. All right. So how you want to play it? Kill your food. Paths. I got no hood in this bag. Pushed the 93 button, felt like a single duck. Got that pack if you need, and I can supposed to be a call bar. But I'm alright. I never once was a stoner. For curiosity. Oh, the freak. Oh my god. It sucks. I need to use my phone though. That's the thing. I use my TV to do that. They might. about self-reflection. Okay. Doing good. Cool. Let's download all these puppies. Let's download the biggest first. Pause. This is gonna be the biggest out of all of them. I know that for a fact. It definitely takes the bottom cake out of all of it. This is always gonna say that. Jaden the Youngin. Could show you what I'm viewing right now. Thing is, I ain't got nothing really to show you all besides I'm downloading this. That's really about it. I'm about to install all these. So while that's downloading, give you all time of your lives. It's right, bro.
Hi, I'm Chet Hand, and I'm running for Boone County Judge Executive to bring a fresh vision for the future.
On the evening of January 20, 2019, 29-year-old Arjun Sood and his wife Jessica put their 7-month-old son Oliver to bed in his nursery at their home in Lake Barrington, Illinois. What they didn't know was that someone else was already in the room with them. It was getting late and Arjun had work in the morning. Like many busy parents, Arjun had set up a Nest baby monitor to check in on Oliver from his phone without getting out of bed. The Nest thermostat was set to 72 so the room would stay comfortable through the night. Arjun had spent roughly $4,000 outfitting the house with Nest products over the years. 17 cameras placed throughout the home and around the exterior, with 2 smart thermostats and a full security system. He was an avid user of the technology and clearly trusted it enough to build much of his home security around it. But shortly after putting Oliver down, Arjun was standing in the hallway outside the nursery when he heard something from inside the room. It sounded like a deep, male voice speaking directly to his son through the camera's speaker. He rushed into the room, but no one was there. He thought maybe it was just an interference with the baby monitor. Stuff like this isn't new, and many electronic devices can pick up distortion of some kind. Still, to be safe, they brought Oliver downstairs. On the way down, Jessica noticed he was extremely distressed and sweating through his clothes, and when she glanced at the thermostat, the temperature had been cranked up to a dangerous 90 degrees. But before they could process what was happening, the voice came back. This time it was coming through a different Nest camera downstairs in the living area, and it was speaking directly to them. The voice was cursing, hurling racial slurs, and taunting them in real time as it watched them through the live feed. When Arjun looked directly at the lens, the voice asked, "Why are you looking at me? I see you watching me." At that point, Arjun realized someone had hacked into their Nest account, which he used to control every camera, thermostat, and every inch of the security system he had spent thousands of dollars building to protect his family. Arjun's first instinct was to yell back at the camera, but he composed himself and started questioning the intruder through the two-way audio.
Yes, I'm here. Come.
I know you're here. Who are you?
He tried to extract information on the hacker's whereabouts, asking who they were and which country they were from.
Who is this? Are you just sitting at your computer there? Into my account? Where are you? Which country?
The
India.
hacker went quiet without identifying himself or explaining
India, bro. It's gotta be.
why he had done any of it.
Yeah, who are you? Come on, be a man. Speak up. Nothing? Nothing to say?
The couple disconnected their interior camera in the house and called both the police and Nest customer support. Nest responded by putting the blame on Arjun. They told him the hack had happened because he had reused a password from another site that had been breached, and because he hadn't enabled two-factor authentication, a feature Arjun didn't even know existed. Now, technically they did have a point. Reusing passwords is a real security risk, and two-factor authentication probably would have stopped this. But digging deeper into this, I found the Sood family weren't the only victims attacked through Nest devices. After researching similar incidents, a dozen more cases just as chilling came up. For example, on the same day the Soods were dealing with their hacker, January 20, 2019, a family in Orinda, California had a fake ballistic missile attack warning come blasting through their Nest camera, telling them 3 nuclear missiles were heading for Los Angeles, Chicago, and Ohio.
It came on like the emergency sounds of an Amber Alert, say, and then a man's voice announced that North Korea had launched 3 intercontinental ballistic missiles toward the United States.
Their young son hid under the living room rug thinking the country was under attack. And about a month earlier, on December 17, 2018, parents in Houston woke to the haunting sound of a stranger's voice coming from their 4-month-old's nursery, threatening to kidnap their son and ordering them to turn off the bedroom lights.
He turned that camera on and told us, said, turn off the light, and then said, I'm going to kidnap your baby, I'm in your baby's room.
In every single case, Nest responded by blaming the customers. So why did this keep happening? You see, Nest had quietly added two-factor authentication back in 2017 and barely told anyone. Arjun didn't even know the feature existed because Nest never told him. It took until May 2020, well over a year after all of this happened, for the company to finally make it mandatory, which feels like a quiet admission that leaving the security entirely up to the customer was never the right call. But for Arjun, the scariest part wasn't about how the hacker got in. It was how Nest cameras gave no real warning when someone else was watching the feed. A handful of them had a small blue light, but it only switched on when the intruder started talking. A hacker could watch and listen for hours, and the family would never know. The only reason the Soods knew they'd been compromised was because the hacker chose to speak. In the end, the hacker was never identified, and no arrest was ever made.
Creating custom clothing with Tapstitch is simple. Start by choosing a garment, then click
Okay.
Design Now.
On the afternoon of April 23, 2020, Shauna Dottie received a phone call from her home security company, ADT. They had called to tell her that for the last 6 years, every dollar she had paid them to keep her family safe had done the exact opposite. Back in 2014, Shauna and her husband Randy were living with their young son in the suburbs of the Dallas-Fort Worth area and wanted the peace of mind to keep an eye on the house from anywhere. ADT's Pulse system, with indoor cameras, motion alerts, and a cell phone app, sounded like exactly what they were after. A few weeks after they placed the order, a technician from ADT showed up at their front door. He looked at the layout and mounted a wide-angle indoor camera that covered most of the ground floor, the family room, the entryway, the dining area, and the staircase. The lens also reached into the master bedroom and the corner of the bathroom. He walked Shauna through the app on her phone. Before he left, he told her he needed to add his own email to the account, only briefly to check if the connection was working. For the next 6 years, the system worked exactly the way it was supposed to, and the Dotties had no reason to think about that afternoon again, until they received that call from ADT on April 23, 2020. The employee calling told Shauna that the technician who had installed her camera back in 2014 had granted himself remote access to it on the installing day, and that access was never removed. He had been using it to view footage from inside the Dottie's home ever since. When Shauna asked what he had been seeing, the employee had no answers. They couldn't name him and wouldn't say how many times he had logged in.
7 hours is a long time, but we're talking 7 years. You don't know what to think. So you find yourself just trying to go back, like, okay, what were we doing during this time?
Unfortunately, the Dotties weren't the only family getting the ADT call. They were one of more than 200 plus. A few weeks earlier, another ADT customer in the Dallas-Fort Worth area was going through their Pulse account settings when they noticed an email attached to it that didn't belong to anyone in the house. Naturally, they called ADT to ask what it was doing there. When the company looked into it, they found that the same email was attached to 220 separate customer accounts across the metropolitan area, and every one of those systems had been installed or serviced by the same technician at some point, which raised the obvious question: how does one technician end up signed into 220 homes? The answer was buried in ADT's own software. Technicians are allowed to temporarily attach their personal email to a customer's account during install. It's a diagnostic feature meant to verify the camera feed before they leave. So, every time he serviced or installed a system, he either gave the same diagnostic excuse or didn't bother explaining at all. But he never removed his email, so the Pulse app on his personal phone kept him signed in as a co-owner of these homes. Now, some could argue this was just sloppy work, a tech forgetting to clean up after himself. Once or twice, sure, but more than 200 times is not a coincidence. So, how did this slip past ADT for so long? It turned out ADT didn't have any system in place to catch such a massive breach of privacy. The company never alerted its customers and didn't even have an automated check flagging the same email showing up on dozens of accounts, which meant he could keep logging in whenever he wanted. In April 2016, the same technician installed a system at the home of a couple with 2 young daughters. The camera covered the living room and the kitchen. Court records would later show he logged into that account 322 times. At another household, one where 5 children under the age of 18 lived, he logged in 361 times. In September 2017, he set up a Pulse system for the Preddy family. Their teenage daughter Alexia wasn't comfortable with indoor cameras, and she told her mother this on the day of the installation. But the ADT technician assured them that the system was perfectly safe. Years later, when the full scope of the breach came to light, ADT found that he had accessed the Preddy family's live footage almost 100 times during the years Alexia was still a teenager. Court filings would later show the wide-angle lens and its placement allowed him to view her undressed, getting ready for bed, and during moments of physical intimacy. This technician was Telesforo Aviles. He was 35 years old, married, and the father of 5 children of his own. He'd been with ADT for 17 years, and by 2020 was working as a senior supervisor in the Dallas-Fort Worth region. On May 18, 2020, Shauna Dottie and Alexia Preddy each filed federal lawsuits against ADT, accusing the company of allowing Aviles to exploit its Pulse system and spy on customers through their own home cameras. Soon after, more lawsuits followed from other victims. In the federal case, Aviles admitted that he took note of households with women he found attractive and repeatedly targeted homes of young women and married couples with daughters. He would open the Pulse app on his personal phone, scroll through the list of homes attached to his email, and watch for live footage of any private moments. Across the 4.5 years covered by his federal plea agreement, prosecutors counted more than 9,600 unauthorized logins across roughly 200 accounts. That works out to 5 or 6 logins a day, every day, for over 4 years. Aviles pleaded guilty to computer fraud in January 2021 and was sentenced to 52 months in federal prison that June. ADT had revoked his access to all 220 accounts months earlier, but the only person who knew exactly what he had seen and in which homes was Aviles himself. On the evening of September 30, 2017, a young Dutch woman named Rilana Hamer came home from the supermarket and started unpacking her groceries. She lived alone in a small house in Bremen, a quiet town in the eastern Netherlands, with her dog. Rilana had recently bought a small indoor security camera from her local discount store for around 35 euros. It was a Maxtor ACT IPC01, a white plastic unit with a motorized base that could rotate across the room. She set up the camera on a shelf in her living room, figuring it would be easy to check on her dog throughout the day. The camera also had a built-in speaker, which let her talk to the dog even when she wasn't home. That evening, she was putting her groceries away when she heard a low, mechanical voice from the living room. When she went to look, she saw the camera rotating on its base, slowly turning back and forth on its own. Her phone was the only thing she used to control it, and that was on her bed in the next room. Figuring it was just an updating glitch, she went back to the kitchen. But a few minutes later, the sound came back. This time, the camera turned and pointed directly at her, and a man's voice came through the speaker. It said, "Bonjour, madam." Staying composed, Rilana asked who was there, but no one answered. To see if the voice would speak again, Rilana moved to the side and noticed that the camera was following her. That's when the voice came through again, this time saying, "Hello, madam. Is everything all right?" She immediately ran across the room and pulled the plug from the socket. Later that evening, a friend came over for dinner. Rilana told her what had happened, and the two of them decided to test the camera again. They placed it back on the table and plugged it in as Rilana held her phone to record. It took less than a minute before the camera rotated on its own and found her again.
What did you do?
Soon, the voice came back.
It's hot. No! Get the out of my house, now! Shut the up! Shut the up of my house, now! Go away! Hola, señorita. Yeah, you.
Rilana posted the video on her Facebook account, where it went viral immediately. By the start of the next week, Dutch national news had picked up the story. When a tech journalist looked into Rilana's video days later, the explanation turned out to be disturbingly simple. Every camera the manufacturer shipped came with the same default password, 123, along with the device ID printed on a sticker underneath each unit. With just those two things and the free app, anyone in the world could connect to any of these cameras, watch the live feed, listen through the microphone, and talk through the speaker. Looking up the manual for this camera, it does mention that the default password is weak and recommends changing it before use. But nowhere in the app itself, the thing you actually interact with during setup, did it ever tell the users to do that. Few people read the full manual for a 35 euro camera from a discount store. You just download the app and start. So Rilana never knew that she had to change the password, and she was far from the only one. When the tech journalist tried connecting to other cameras from the same manufacturer, he got into 4 unsuspecting households within minutes, using nothing but the manual and the free app. Each one of those people, just like Rilana, had no idea anyone else was watching. In late 2010, Ferial Nijam woke up in the middle of the night to heavy metal music playing at full volume through every speaker in her house. Confused and disoriented, she didn't know how it had turned on. And despite her trying, the volume level didn't go down, as if someone else was controlling the sound system. But there was no one home except her that night. Ferial was a Canadian fashion model who had spent most of her adult life around cameras. She had walked at the Berlin Film Festival in the mid-2000s and built a career where she was looked at on her own terms. By her late 30s, she was in a long-term relationship with a partner who lived in the States. He was, in her words, quietly controlling. According to her, he wouldn't just touch base with a text, he would call me on FaceTime and ask to say hi to the person I was with. At the time, she thought it was attentiveness, and she trusted him enough that she eventually moved into his home in the US. It was an impressively designed house with a high-tech smart home system which covered everything on the property, from lights, heating, blinds, security cameras, to the sound system. All of it ran through a single integrated platform her partner had set up. For someone who'd spent her career around cameras and production sets, living with so much technology around didn't feel unusual. But sometime during the 2010s, the relationship started to fall apart. Her partner moved to a different city, while Fariel stayed behind in his house, with his credentials still running everything around her. And that's when things started getting strange. She'd fall asleep at a normal hour and get jolted awake by sound blasting through every room.
You're asleep in the middle of the night, and all of a sudden, over the sound system, comes this blaring music that startles you awake. That's what would happen to me.
That's crazy.
This game,
What the freak?
you're not ready.
Bro.
By the time she was on her feet, it would cut out just as suddenly as it had started, and she'd be left standing in a dark, silent house with no explanation. Soon enough, the lights started to behave in a similar way. She'd switch them off for bed, and they'd flick back on, sometimes flickering for several seconds before stabilizing. She would experience the same with her TVs, which would switch on by themselves and shut back off as soon as she got near the remote. At first, she tried telling herself it was just the system acting up. It was a big house, and every inch of it was wired with technology, so some level of glitching was expected. But even then, she couldn't help shake off the feeling that something was off. In an interview with CBC's Marketplace, she said, "It's almost as if the house is haunted." Sadly, in a way, she was right. It started when she began receiving messages from her ex. They mentioned things he should have never known, like what she had been wearing earlier or who she had been with when she walked through the front door. He'd been using every piece of smart tech in the house to watch her and remind her he was still there. On more than one occasion, he'd also sent her direct threats.
"Get out of my house.
I need you to stop manipulating the lights."
I'm not touching the lights.
What is wrong? Just can you please leave me alone? You're not supposed to call me. I'm not bothering you.
I am going after the dogs. And then I'm going after you."
For someone who had spent her entire life controlling exactly how and when she was seen, being watched in her own home without ever knowing felt like a different kind of violation entirely.
He was able to monitor me, using our security surveillance cameras, even remotely, from thousands of miles away.
Fariel tried to shut the system down, but her partner had configured everything from the start and held all the login credentials. Left with no other options, she contacted the local police and explained everything. Unfortunately, the response she received only deepened the sense that she had nowhere left to turn. The home wasn't in her name, and as far as the responding officers were concerned, that was where the matter ended. In the end, Fariel realized that her only real way out was to leave the home behind entirely. She gathered her dogs and made her way to a local women's shelter. On the 8th of August 2025, a woman named Brenda took her Ring doorbell camera off its mount and brought it inside her house to charge. It was something she did every few weeks. The camera ran on a battery, and recharging it was a routine part of owning one. But this time, she noticed something strange about the camera. The blue ring of light around the lens was on. On a Ring doorbell, that light only comes on when the camera is actively streaming, recording, or in the middle of a live two-way call with someone signed into the account. None of which should have been the case while the device was unmounted and sitting indoors. So Brenda picked it up to see what was going on. And that's when she started hearing a voice coming through the doorbell speaker.
"It's you. It's you.
Someone was speaking through the device in real time. And by the way they were laughing, it's clear that it wasn't someone who'd accidentally connected to the wrong camera. Whoever it was, they were taking their time terrorizing Brenda. Brenda pulled out her phone and managed to record only some of the interaction. But the voice went silent within a few seconds, and the blue light switched off shortly after. She later posted the video on her TikTok account. The comment section was flooded with people who couldn't believe how easily someone could gain access to a Ring device. along with others sharing similar experiences. One comment read, "I have cameras all over my house and I've one in my bedroom. And a few days after I got them, I was sleeping and got woken up by someone snoring through my camera. And it wasn't no one in my house because I didn't log into anyone else's phone yet because I just set them up." By now, the pattern should sound familiar. Just like the Maxter cameras Rilana had set up in her living room, a doorbell camera is only as secure as the password protecting the account behind it. A weak or reused password is often all it takes. And if you look at every case in this video, this exact vulnerability keeps showing up, regardless of the brand, price, or how trusted the company is. So that's also what most likely happened here. Now, as I was researching this case, I found multiple people in the comments suggesting a different theory. They argued that what Brenda heard wasn't a stalker at all, but signal interference from someone else's baby monitor bleeding into her doorbell, and that the voice on the audio sounded a lot like a dad talking to his baby. This theory sounds plausible at first. Wireless devices do cross signals all the time, and analog baby monitors are notorious for picking up audio from neighboring devices operating on similar radio frequencies. But Ring devices aren't analog based. They work by connecting to your home's Wi-Fi network and streaming audio and video through Ring's own encrypted servers. So any sound that comes through the doorbell speaker has to be sent through the Ring app first, by someone logged into the account. In other words, for a man's voice to come through Brenda's doorbell speaker clearly and in full conversation, someone had to be on the other end of the Ring app with full access to her device.
That's crazy. I'm not buying a Ring doorbell after this, bro. This is not happening. Not happening at all. I'll be right back. I'm back. Just give me one more. Just give me like 1 second though.
Chipotle honey chicken.
Stuff's still not done. Oh my god.
It's back. Step into summer with fresh grilled chicken, spicy Chipotle peppers, and the
Dennis Martin. On the afternoon of June 14, 1969, 6-year-old Dennis Martin was spending Father's Day weekend with his family in Great Smoky Mountains National Park. He was there with his father, grandfather,
Who needs it?
Mother and older brother near Spence Field, a remote high country area along the Appalachian Trail. It was supposed to be a simple family camping trip. Instead, it turned into one of the most disturbing missing child.
I don't want to be on here very much because okay. So what is downloading right now? 5 enhanced. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's not the one I'm gonna play. I'm gonna go Legacy a lot.
Cases in American history. Late that day, Dennis and a few other boys decided to play a prank. The plan was to hide along the trail, wait for the adults to come by, and jump out and scare them. To pull it off, the boys split up. Dennis went one way, the others went another. A few moments later, the other boys came back, but Dennis didn't. His father, Bill Martin, started calling for him almost immediately and began searching the area on foot. There was no answer. No movement in the brush, and no sign of a little boy in a bright red shirt. And this was not easy terrain. Dennis had vanished in steep, heavily wooded mountain country where a child could disappear from view in seconds. If he had wandered off the trail, fallen, or gotten confused, the forest could have swallowed him almost instantly. As if things weren't bad enough already, they only got worse. Not long after Dennis disappeared, a hard rainstorm moved into the mountains. Heavy rain pounded the area, and whatever tracks or scent Dennis may have left behind were being wiped away in real time. By nightfall, the temperature had dropped too. For a 6-year-old dressed for a summer outing, not an unexpected night alone in the wilderness, this was a serious danger all by itself. Family members and rangers kept looking through the darkness, trying to find them before the mountains and weather made things even worse. By the next morning, the search had grown into something enormous. What began as a frantic family search turned into a full-scale operation involving rangers, volunteers, Boy Scouts, horse teams, helicopters, National Guard members, and even Green Berets. Before it was over, thousands of people would take part. At one point, around 1,400 searchers were involved in a single day. More than 56 square miles were eventually covered. And after all that, they still found nothing physical to indicate what happened to Dennis. There were leads, but none of them changed the case. For example, seemed to head toward a stream and then disappear. They were Oxford prints, and because Dennis was wearing the same kind of shoe, the prints drew immediate attention. But officials decided they were instead probably left by a Boy Scout helping with the search. As the days passed, darker theories started to take hold. The most famous came from a man named Harold Key, who claimed he heard a terrible scream not long after Dennis vanished. Soon after that, he said he saw a rough-looking man moving quickly through the area with something red slung over his shoulders. Dennis had been wearing a red shirt, so the account naturally drew attention, but there seemed to be a problem. The timeline and distance did not quite fit well enough. Investigators believe the man Harold described was too far from the place Dennis had last been seen, and too little time had passed for the sighting to make sense. Both park rangers and the FBI ultimately concluded there was not enough to connect the account to Dennis's disappearance. Still, the abduction theory never really died. Dennis's father believed his son had been taken, and a lot of people understood why. A child vanishes in broad daylight and an enormous search follows, yet not one trace of him is ever found. Officials, however, lean toward a different explanation. They believe Dennis most likely became lost and died somewhere in the wilderness soon after disappearing. It is the least dramatic theory, but it may also be the most likely. An animal attack has also been suggested over the years, usually involving a bear or feral hog, though that theory has always had its own problems. No blood was found, no torn clothing, no obvious sign of a violent encounter. By June 29, the active search was called off. The volunteers were exhausted, leads had dried up, and the mountains had given up nothing. Dennis Martin was never found.
On Biden and Kamala's watch, 400,000 illegal immigrants with criminal convictions were roaming America's streets. Thomas Massie didn't care. He voted with the Democrats against Trump's plan to deport criminal aliens. On May 19th, fire Thomas Massie.
Northern Tool and Equipment. Get serious.
Scott Lilly. Scott Lilly was not the kind of person most people would expect to see tackling the Appalachian Trail. He was not some hardened outdoorsman or seasoned long-distance hiker. But in the summer of 2011, the 30-year-old from South Bend, Indiana decided to shoulder a backpack and head south on one of the most famous footpaths in America. Part of the appeal was history. Scott had a strong interest in the Civil War, and that helped draw him toward Virginia, a state dotted with battlefields. But this hike does not seem to have been just about scenery or history. It appears to have been something more personal, a way to clear his head and work through whatever was weighing on him at the time. On June 15, 2011, Scott set out on an ambitious journey. His plan was to hike the Appalachian Trail southbound, from Maryland all the way to Springer Mountain in Georgia. For someone who was still relatively new when it came to hiking, this was no small undertaking. But by the time he reached Virginia, he seemed to be doing just fine. He had made his way into the mountains of Nelson County and taken on a stretch of trail near The Priest, a rugged area where the Appalachian Trail climbs above 4,000 feet. By then, he may have felt like he had found his rhythm. Then, somewhere around July 31, things went quiet. That was the last point at which anyone is known to have seen or heard from Scott. What investigators believe is that Scott may have been heading toward Cow Camp Gap Shelter, a well-known community-used simple wooden structure along the trail. That would have made sense. The Cow Camp Gap was a logical next stop on his journey. From there, he may have planned to continue into Buena Vista, a small town along the trail with supplies. If that was his plan, there was nothing unusual about it. That is how life on the Appalachian Trail works. Hikers move from one shelter area to the next. And sometimes, because everyone is spread out and moving at their own pace, people disappear from each other's view for hours or even days without it seeming alarming at first. It is a very isolating place. So, for a while, Scott's absence may not have looked like a crisis. But somewhere in that ordinary gap, something went terribly wrong. On August 12, 2011, nearly 2 weeks after Scott was last known to be on that stretch of trail, a group of hikers made a horrifying discovery near the side trail leading to Cow Camp Gap Shelter. They found a body in a shallow grave. It was Scott Lilly. Right away, it was obvious this was not a simple wilderness death. Someone had tried to hide what happened to him. Not very well, but enough to delay discovery. Investigators believed Scott had likely been dead for around 12 days by the time he was found. That meant he had probably died not long after the last known stretch of his hike near the Priest in late July. And the location only made the case more unsettling. Cow Camp Gap was not some foreign corner of the mountains. It was part of a well-used recreation area. Hikers passed through it, campers even used it. It was secluded enough for someone to hide a body, but not so remote that no one would ever come across it. That meant whoever put Scott there either took a major risk or felt comfortable doing it. Months later, investigators released one of the case's most disturbing details. In January 2012, the medical examiner officially ruled Scott's death a homicide. His cause of death was asphyxia by suffocation. Some of his belongings were also missing and never recovered. Among them were his backpack, his relatively new trail shoes, a Nintendo game, and an Appalachian Trail handbook. That immediately raised the obvious question. Was Scott killed for his gear, or were those items taken for some other reason entirely? Investigators never publicly gave a clear answer. Because the killing happened on federal land, the FBI took charge of the case. They worked alongside National Park Service Rangers, U.S. Forest Service officers, Virginia State Police, and local authorities. Agents and officers collected more than 100 pieces of evidence. They covered more than 270 miles of trail. They conducted 83 interviews of hikers in the area at the time across multiple states and even in 2 foreign countries. 1 year after Scott's murder, the FBI even announced a $10,000 reward for information leading to the arrest and conviction of his killer. But despite all of that, the case never broke open. No suspect was publicly identified and no final timeline was established. It was never found out exactly what happened to Scott Lilly in his final hours on the trail, which sparked much speculation. Some seem to paint the area around Cow Camp Gap as an area crawling with dangerous mountain recluses or hidden predators waiting just off the trail, but that image does not really hold up. This was a well-used area and not some lost world cut off from everybody else, and that may be one of the creepiest parts of all. He disappeared along a route hikers used all the time. Then, somewhere in that stretch of Virginia backcountry, he crossed paths with the wrong person, and exactly what happened next has remained unknown to this day. Derek Luking. Before Derek Luking disappeared into the Great Smoky Mountains, a section of the Appalachian Mountains in March 2012, the people closest to him had already started to feel like something was wrong. In the months leading up to his disappearance, his father noticed changes in his 24-year-old son. Derek had started drinking and smoking, which his family considered unusual for him. He also seemed unhappy with where his life was heading. The mystery began on March 15, 2012, when Derek did not show up for work. No one could reach him as calls to his phone went unanswered. A mutual friend eventually alerted his roommate, Ryan, and from there the concern escalated fast. Ryan contacted Derek's family, and the Lukings drove through the night from Virginia to Tennessee. Once they arrived, they started digging through anything that might explain where he had gone. On Derek's computer, they found searches related to Great Smoky Mountains National Park. They also found a hotel reservation. That meant Derek had not just disappeared at random. He had made some kind of plan. And for whatever reason, that plan had led him toward the North Carolina side of the Smokies. But why? That was the question hanging over everything from the beginning. 2 days later, on March 17, surveillance footage captured Derek leaving the Microtel Inn & Suites in Cherokee, North Carolina at around 4 o'clock in the morning. He was carrying only a day pack. That was the last confirmed sighting of him. After that, Derek effectively walked out of view and never came back. Inside his hotel room were details that only made the case stranger. His family found a Bible on the bed and a liquor bottle on the floor. It suggested he may have been wrestling with something emotional, spiritual, or both. Later that same morning, around 8:30, Derek's white Ford Escape was found at Newfound Gap high in the Smokies, near the Tennessee-North Carolina line. His family came across it by sheer luck while searching for him. Inside the vehicle was a note. Its message was short but chilling. "Do not follow me." But despite this note, people did, because by that point the case no longer looked like a man taking a private trip. It looked like a disappearance headed towards something much worse, and what investigators found inside the SUV only deepened the mystery. Derek had bought a surprising amount of outdoor gear. There were maps of the national park, a tent, a sleeping bag, food, cord, cutting tools, lights, and other survival items. It looked like the setup for a serious wilderness outing, but there was one major problem. Derek had left most of it behind. His wallet and cash were still in the car too. The scene made almost no sense. If he meant to survive in the backcountry, why walk away from the very gear that would have made that possible? This contradiction has haunted the case ever since. Maybe Derek only planned to take a short walk and return for the rest of the stuff. Maybe he was trying to imitate the stripped-down survival style of Man vs. Wild, a show his family said he liked. Maybe he never had a coherent wilderness plan at all. Or maybe someone else entered the picture after he arrived at Newfound Gap. Search and rescue teams soon moved into the area. About 60 people and 3 dog teams took part, covering more than 70 miles of trail around the parking area. They checked places where someone could have left the trail, pushed into the brush, and disappeared. Rangers asked if anyone had seen Derek, a young man matching his description, or anything unusual around Newfound Gap that day. And this is where the case gets even stranger. It was a sunny day. People were out hiking, picnicking, and moving through the area, yet no dependable witnesses ever emerged to place Derek there. There was one possible sighting along Newfound Gap Road that suggested he may have entered the woods from there, but that lead led nowhere. Then, the case took an even darker tone. Around the same time Derek vanished, another young man disappeared in the same general area of the Smokies. His name was Michael Giovanni Cacchini. Friends last saw him on March 18, 2012, just a day after Derek was last captured on surveillance video. During the search for Derek, rangers found Michael's abandoned vehicle parked along a walkway off Newfound Gap Road. It was an odd place to leave a car overnight, and not the kind of spot where someone on a normal hiking trip would be expected to begin a backcountry trek. Like Derek, Michael was heavily searched for and not found during the initial effort. Months later, a backpack and human remains were discovered in the park near the area connected to his disappearance. The remains were eventually identified as Michael's, giving one of the 2 disappearances a grim ending, but not a clear explanation. The question of if the cases were related began to arise, but Derek's case continued to make no progress. Every theory seemed to hit a wall. One possibility is that he went into the wilderness on purpose and intended not to come back, whether to take his life or somehow start a new one in the woods. The note in his car immediately points people in that direction, but even that theory has problems. If Derek meant to disappear in the mountains and possibly take his life, why buy so much survival gear first? Another theory is that he wanted some kind of survival challenge. But again, why even buy the gear then in the first place? Then there is the possibility of foul play. Maybe Derek meant to scout the area and return for the rest of his gear, and during that window he crossed paths with someone who had malicious intentions. Maybe the note was genuine, or maybe it was meant to mislead whoever found the car. But that theory has problems too. There is no body, blood, torn clothes, confirmed witnesses, or any definitive sign of an attack or abduction. More than a decade later, Derek Liu King is still missing.
Cheerios, 8 grams of tasty protein for a day full of good.
President Trump has spoken. Andy Barr has President Trump's complete and total endorsement for Senate.
A wonderful man who's been with me all the way, Congressman Andy Barr.
President Trump says Barr is a
Louise Chaput. Louise Chaput was the kind of person people remembered fondly. She was 52 years old, a mother of 2, and by all accounts, deeply compassionate. She loved the outdoors, forests, mountains, and quiet places were where she found peace. So when plans for a hiking trip with friends fell through in November 2001, Louise did not cancel the trip. Instead, she decided to go alone. She packed up her silver Ford Focus station wagon, left Quebec, and drove south toward New Hampshire. Her destination was Pinkham Notch Lodge in the White Mountains section of the Appalachian Mountains. She planned to spend just a few days there and be back home in time for work on Monday, November 19. It sounded simple enough, but the place she was heading toward had a reputation of its own. Mount Washington is beautiful, but it's also notoriously dangerous. The area is known for brutal weather, lethal cold, and conditions that can turn deadly with almost no warning. Louise knew that. She had climbed Mount Washington before and had grown up hiking and skiing. She crossed into the United States through the state of Vermont shortly before noon on Thursday, November 15. By mid-afternoon, she reached the visitor's center area. Louise stopped in and asked where she could take a short walk to stretch her legs after the long drive. She wanted something easy and brief to kick off her multi-day trip, something she could finish before dark. The clerk directed her to Lost Pond Trail. It was just across the road from the lodge, a major fact that makes her case so unsettling. Louise had not set out on some extreme backcountry adventure. This was just a short walk. But somewhere between that simple plan and the end of the day, Louise vanished. When she failed to return to Quebec and did not show up for work on Monday, alarm bells went off. Her boyfriend contacted authorities in New Hampshire and the search began. Their immediate thinking was the weather played a part. And at first, that assumption made perfect sense. Louise had gone alone into a mountain region famous for harsh weather, steep terrain, and sudden danger. In late November, even a short walk can become serious if someone slips, gets turned around, or spends too long out in the cold. Everything about the setting pointed in that direction. But searchers would soon find one important clue. Louise's silver Ford Focus station wagon was still in the visitor center parking lot. The search unfolded in exactly the kind of conditions that make the White Mountains so feared. Dozens of people from the New Hampshire Fish and Game, Mountain Rescue Services, Androscoggin Valley Search and Rescue, and the U.S. Forest Service headed into the area. They were met by high winds, blowing snow, and bitter cold. Wind chills dropped well below zero. If a missing person is injured or exposed in those kinds of conditions, every hour counts, but the first day produced nothing. On the second day, the weather improved somewhat, and a helicopter from the U.S. Army National Guard joined the search from above. Still, nothing. Louise seemed to have vanished into one of the best-known mountain areas in New Hampshire without leaving behind any clear explanation. And because of where she disappeared, most people naturally assumed the worst. She could have suffered a fall or succumbed to exposure. Maybe she got disoriented and was lost in the wilderness. Anything was a possibility, which made the search for her that much harder. Then, on the afternoon of Thursday, November 22, Thanksgiving Day in the US, the search came to an end. Members of the New Hampshire Fish and Game found Louise's body, and the location only made things stranger. She was not found far from where a car had been parked, close to the trailhead and only a short distance from a well-used area. At first, the public details were limited, and in a place like that, most people still assumed the mountain had claimed another life. But 2 days later, that assumption collapsed. The medical examiner ruled Louise's death a homicide. Luis had been stabbed multiple times. Everything about it was set up to look like a wilderness tragedy. A solo hiker, a dangerous mountain range, bad weather. But what looked like a missing hiker case turned out to be a murder, and no suspect was ever identified. More than 2 decades later, her case is still unsolved.
Stabbed.
Trenny Gibson. On October 8, 1976, 16-year-old Trenny Gibson went on a school trip to the Great Smoky Mountains with about 40 other students from Barrett High School in Knoxville, Tennessee. She was quiet, well-liked, and interested in plants. In school, she was taking horticulture and hoped to study landscape architecture. A trip into the mountains was exactly the kind of thing she would have been excited about. The group was headed to Andrews Bald and Kewohi. The weather, though, was not great. It was damp, chilly, and poor enough that the trip could have easily been canceled. Trenny was also underdressed. She had left her coat behind in Knoxville and ended up hiking in a blouse, sweater, jeans, and tennis shoes. Another student, Robert Simpson, loaned her his wool jacket. The students were told to stay on the trail, not go beyond Andrews Bald, and be back at the bus by 3:30 that afternoon. After they reached Andrews Bald and ate lunch, Trenny separated from Robert at around 1:30 p.m. He later said she wanted to head back towards the bus while he stayed behind. As she made her way back, other students saw her along the trail. One girl walked with her briefly. Another group invited her to stop and sit down, but Trenny kept going. One student later recalled that Trenny seemed to be in a hurry. Then, at about 2:50 that afternoon, witnesses saw her walk a little further ahead, stop, bend down, and step off the trail to the right by herself. This was the last confirmed sighting of Trenny Gibson. When students got back to the bus around 3:30, it became clear something was wrong. Trenny was not there. Her teacher, Wayne Dunlap, started looking for her almost immediately. Another student searched too, but neither found anything. By around 4:30 p.m., rangers had been contacted and the case became an official missing person search inside the Appalachian Mountains. And the timing was awful. Evening was coming on and rain, fog, wind, and falling temperatures were moving in. The trails were slick with wet leaves, and visibility was getting worse by the hour. Even so, those looking for her would find evidence that Trenny may not have been alone. Searchers found broken undergrowth near the place where Trenny was last seen. Nearby were 3 cigarette butts and a partially consumed can of beer, suggesting that someone else may have been in that area. The strongest lead came from the tracking dogs. After being given Trenny's scent, they followed it past the Kewohi Tower lookout point and toward a spot roughly 1.5 miles away where the scent then disappeared. Some thought Trenny may have moved toward the road rather than simply wandering deeper into the wilderness. The search grew quickly. Over the course of the broader search, roughly 756 people took part. And despite all of that, nothing conclusive was ever found. The FBI opened an investigation and looked into possible sightings that were reported. None of them led anywhere. The dead ends didn't seem to make any sense. She was not alone in the deep wilderness. She was on a school trip on a marked trail in one of the most visited parts of the mountains. Then she stepped off the trail for just a moment and vanished. One theory is that she made it to the road and encountered the wrong person. Others believe someone around her that day knew more than they ever admitted. But nearly 50 years later, there is still no body, no proven crime scene, and no clear answer as to what happened to her.
Hi, I'm Chet Hand. I'm running to be your next judge executive to bring a fresh vision for the
Thelma Melton. On November 25, 1981, 58-year-old Thelma Melton, known to her friends as Polly, went for what should have been an easy afternoon walk in the mountains. That day, Polly set out on the Deep Creek Trail in the Appalachian Mountains with 2 friends, Pauline Cannon and Trula Gudger. It was one of her favorite hikes, a familiar trail that was well used and easy to follow. The weather was warm, the creek was shallow because of drought, and the trail was busy enough that other hikers were often around. Nothing about the setting screamed danger. At first, the walk seemed normal and Polly was in good spirits. She had even made homemade spaghetti sauce before leaving and expected to be back later that day to finish the ordinary routines of her life. About an hour into the hike, around 4 p.m., the 3 women reached the turnaround point and started heading back. And that is where the case takes a strange turn. Polly, who had been walking more slowly than usual earlier in the day, suddenly picked up speed. One of her friends even joked that they weren't going to race her. Polly turned, laughed, and kept going. It was the last normal moment anyone had with her. That sudden burst of pace stood out because Polly was not young. She was a heavy smoker and had high blood pressure. She was not the sort of person anyone would expect to suddenly power away down a trail for no clear reason. But that is exactly what she seemed to do. She moved ahead of her friends, went over a rise in the trail, and disappeared from sight. At first, her friends were not alarmed. They assumed Polly was joking around or hurrying back to check on her husband, Robert, who was waiting back at the trailhead. But when they came over the same rise themselves, she was gone. Her friends still tried to make it fit an ordinary explanation. But when they got back and Robert said Polly had not returned yet, the situation changed immediately. By then, she had been out of sight for close to an hour, and one small detail would linger afterward. Just before she disappeared over the hill, her friend said Polly had paused and waved. It was such an ordinary gesture, the kind that means nothing in the moment until it becomes the last thing anyone remembers. Her friends and their husbands went back out to retrace the route. They asked other hikers if anyone had seen her. No one had, and that made the case even stranger. The Deep Creek Trail was popular and it was close to a parking area. It was certainly busy enough that someone should have noticed a woman like Polly if she had simply kept walking. By about 6 p.m., park rangers were contacted, and about an hour later, a formal search was underway. At first, searchers thought they had at least one useful detail. Polly's shoes had a distinctive line across the sole that made her tracks easier to identify, but that clue went nowhere almost immediately. The trail was too busy and too many other people had passed through. Investigators couldn't even determine where Polly had left the trail at all. Over the weekend, the search grew. Volunteers joined park rangers, bloodhounds were brought in, and the trail was closed. In the end, roughly 150 volunteers and 9 search dogs took part. And then came one of the strangest details in the whole case. When the dogs were taken to the point where Polly had been last seen, they reacted strongly. They picked up her scent, but instead of carrying it down the trail or off into the woods, they circled the area and howled. It was as if the trail simply ended where she vanished. Searchers found no clear path away from the point or obvious sign that she had wandered into the forest. There was no evidence of a struggle. No clothing, no dropped belongings, nothing. Rangers also ruled out some of the more dramatic natural explanations. The temperatures were mild, so exposure was unlikely. Animals in the area were also not considered large enough to drag her out of sight. Later, once leaves began to fall and visibility improved, a helicopter surveyed the area from above. Still, nothing. The search continued for 5 days and officially ended on October 2. But the mystery only deepened once investigators started looking at Polly's life in the days before she disappeared. A pastor who knew Polly said she had seemed somewhat depressed after her mother's recent death. There was also an issue with missing Valium, an anxiety medication. Robert told investigators that his prescription bottle was gone, raising the possibility that Polly had taken it. This opened the door to a different theory. Maybe she had been more depressed than anyone realized and she meant to harm herself. Or maybe she took the medication, became disoriented, and somehow wandered off in a way searchers never thought of. Some people wondered if Polly had arranged to leave voluntarily, an idea that was built around a few strange facts. She skipped the volunteer shift she was expected to attend. She reportedly made unusual phone calls preceding her disappearance. There was a parking area and a road not far from where she disappeared, and her sudden burst of speed on the trail could look less random if she was hurrying to meet someone. Months later, that theory picked up one more odd detail. A check made out to Polly was cashed in Birmingham, Alabama, where her family had roots. But even that lead went nowhere. Investigators never established who cashed it. And if Polly really had chosen to run off and start over, she did it in a way that required abandoning her medication, identification, clothes, and everyone who knew her. Her family believed that sounded nothing like her. Then there is the possibility of foul play. Her family seemed to lean toward this idea. Polly was walking alone while wearing jewelry, and she disappeared near a road and parking area. In theory, she could have been lured away, forced into a car, or picked up by someone. But that theory has its own problem. Deep Creek Trail was public and busy, open enough that an attack or abduction should have drawn attention. And yet, no witness ever came forward with a convincing story of seeing Polly attacked, robbed, or taken. Polly Melton was declared legally dead in 1988, and her family eventually held a memorial for her. But the National Park Service still lists her as missing, and more than 4 decades later, the mystery has stayed the same. A woman on a familiar trail walked ahead of her friends, waved once, disappeared over a rise, and was never seen again.
That's chilling, bro. I hope the family is okay about that. It sucks, man, to lose somebody close to you. Especially when you don't know if they're dead or, alone.
Booking.com has all kinds of stays because some want a house in the desert. Others do not. Find exactly what you're booking for. Booking.com, booking.yeah.
Who are you? Stop right there. Go ahead and stop right there.
This Idaho state officer is pointing his flashlight at 70-year-old Alan Bruce. He has no idea that the man he just ran into was in the middle of dumping human body parts in a nearby river after murdering, dismembering, and meticulously covering up the crime scene.
Okay, so what are you doing?
Got a people problem going on down here, and I just wanted to make sure you weren't that guys.
All right, so you're just trying to keep an eye on stuff then?
Yeah, excuse me for if I got you excited.
All right.
After Alan walks away, it would take investigators days to discover exactly what he dumped in the river, leading them through a twisted maze of misleading clues and disturbing discoveries, and what might be the worst crime these small-town officers will ever uncover.
Oh, it stinks bad.
You can pick your friends and you can pick your nose, but you can't pick your family.
There is no body found. He was reduced down to nothing.
It's a routine late spring in central Idaho. Tucked deep within its mountains sits the remote town of Challis, a place surrounded on all sides by rugged terrain and long stretches of wilderness. And at the center of it all runs the Salmon River, better known as the River of No Return. The small town of Challis is home to fewer than 1,000 residents. Crime rates here are remarkably low, and serious violent homicides are unheard of. But that's about to change, because a heinous crime happened somewhere in this town, and what's left of it now is in the Salmon River, waiting to be found. The investigation begins on an early Saturday afternoon, less than a year ago, when an elderly woman walks into the local police station to report someone missing.
When he's upset, I'm just surprised he hasn't been back to see. That's why I'm concerned.
Yeah. Do you know what he was wearing last when he left?
Pair of boots, blue jeans, and I think it was a dark t-shirt and baseball cap, and he's got a little pug rider that is with him everywhere.
Who is Patrick to
Just
you?
one of my dear kids that I've taken under my wing.
Okay, so not biological.
No.
Okay.
There's a picture.
Yeah, picture, okay. Does this picture resemble what he looks like right now?
His beard is a little fuller and his hair is in better shape than that.
The man in those photos is 47-year-old Patrick Shelton. His adoptive mother, Helen, goes on to explain that Patrick spends most of his time up in the mountains, cutting and selling firewood, often late at night. He's got a chainsaw, usually at least one weapon on him, and his dog Ryder is always by his side. In most missing person cases, it takes days before investigators get a solid lead to work with. But in the town of Challis, that process is about to be cut short.
I remember you mentioned something about when you talked about him going to Alan Bruce's. It seemed like you said something to where they had some conflict recently. They have?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know why he went there?
He was supposed to go move his motorhomes, and when he got out there, Alan had moved them with the bulldozer.
Okay.
Not good. Probably screwed up the transmissions, and I don't know.
The name Helen mentions immediately rings a bell because officers know exactly who she's talking about. 70-year-old Alan Bruce is a local resident with a rural property just out of town, working odd jobs, including welding and mechanical work. But that's not what people in Challis know him for, because Alan has a different reputation, built on constant disputes and ongoing conflicts with other locals. Just earlier in the year, he was reported for allegedly throwing gas bombs and setting a woman's property on fire. So based on Helen's statement, officers prepare to head out and speak with Alan, see if he can point them in the right direction. At this point, officers aren't too surprised that Alan's name came up, and don't expect anything serious. In reality, something already happened between Alan and Patrick just a night ago that ended very gruesomely. While officers are on their way to question him, Alan is still in the middle of covering things up. In just a few seconds, a deputy pulls up to his property.
Hey, Alan!
How's it going? One thing after another. Hey, I was just coming to chat with you. We had a report that no one knows where Pat is right now.
Yeah, they don't.
Okay. And I just wanted to touch bases with you because I know you got the stuff off your property, but he was going to come by to pick it up, right?
Yeah.
Did you ever see him on that?
I did.
Oh, okay.
They came by here. He was unhappy, very unhappy.
Okay, but it was just all kind of verbal argument or something, or he's just okay. And
he's kind of on edge. I see. Like he's kind of shaky. Like he kind of did something.
Went and got his stuff then, or?
Well, he still has some stuff here. He said he would want to go cut some wood and get some money. So he's probably out somewhere out there. Maybe broke down, and I don't know.
I'm just trying to create a timeline so I know who last saw him. So when was that he showed up here?
2 nights ago.
2 nights?
He just got done doing something.
Ago?
3 nights ago.
Let's see, what is it? Thursday night? Okay.
In the middle of the conversation, the deputy notices something off about Alan's demeanor. His responses are short, controlled, almost rehearsed. But as the deputy continues asking questions, things start to feel even more strange.
And then, did he hang around here long, or did he just go right over?
Back and forth.
Back and forth? Coming back onto the property?
Yeah.
Does he still stab stuff here then?
He does.
Oh, okay.
Get it all off.
Oh, okay.
Like that shed, that wooden shed is his?
Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
The tires in it. And you can see there's a pickup rack just over that board.
Oh, just the steel there poking up? Oh, okay. Okay. So
wooden rack over there in the back of trackers, like that.
Okay.
Tires.
Just kind of bunch of crap laying around.
Right.
Okay. So he got some of it though?
Yeah.
Do you know where he was taking it to?
Taking it down to his motorhomes.
Oh, where are his motorhomes?
Right here. You walk over there and you see.
Okay. Oh, there?
There's his Ram Charger and another one's in front.
The motorhome Alan is pointing to does indeed belong to Patrick, but more importantly, it holds items that might explain what really happened to him. Alan goes on to explain that he moved Patrick's motorhomes himself because of the ongoing disputes and problems between the two, which sounds normal considering they're frequent business partners. But as the conversation continues, the deputy takes note of Alan's shifting body language and quietly requests another officer to the scene. There's a noticeable tension in the way Alan carries himself. This is because while he's speaking to the deputy, his sole focus is on the barrels sitting just a few feet away, with Patrick's dismembered body parts hidden inside.
Join Planet Fitness for $1 down, $15 a month, and get free massage amenities all month long. Deal ends May 15th.
Thanks to Purdue Global, I got my literal dream job.
Getting a degree backed by the power.
People are crazy.
He's riding along with me. I was just on a phone call for a minute, so I didn't want to bring that out here.
The situation is
So
crazy.
did he stay here last night, or?
No.
Oh, okay. Okay. And he didn't tell you where he was going to get the wood?
Hold on. It was Thursday night he left here, not last night.
Okay. You know, does he have any favorite spots so we can just go
He's got a
check
spot
for
up
him?
there at Bayhorse, pretty close to the top. You go up there before you get to the rest area, the potties. This road takes off and goes down the hill and crosses the creek.
Uh-huh.
Way back up in there is a favorite wood cutting spot for him.
Oh, okay. Okay. Is that the only one you know about?
It's the only one he took me to.
Oh, okay. You may be the last person that saw him because he would have then gone up there that night potentially?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Notably, Alan's demeanor shifts once again. With a second officer on scene, he becomes more composed and careful with how he answers questions. Despite this noticeable shift, Alan provides deputies with something useful, a location where Patrick might be. The place he mentions is a remote area about 20 miles out.
Give me 1 second. Okay. GTA is finished. Now we're downloading Counter-Strike, which I'm not going to play. This is done. Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike shouldn't take that long. Waiting for this to download too.
Near the so-called River of No Return. Naturally, it's somewhere deputies need to check, but before heading out there, they decide to take a quick look around the motorhome Ellen pointed to earlier. A small decision that will give police something useful to work with later on.
The doors are ratchet strapped closed. Looks like it's cut.
Are these your footprints?
No.
Maybe take a photo of those.
Yeah, that one looks open. That looks... I think it looks cut.
If that is a deadbolt, but that's an additional.
I'm assuming Alan had to access it to put it in neutral. Technically, you could be looking at unlawful entry.
Clearly, the locks have been tampered with, consistent with Alan's explanation that he moved the motorhome himself. It's a small detail, but one that could give officers grounds to detain him later on, depending on how this unfolds. But without a warrant, officers can't search inside the motorhome, so they step back, leave the scene, and head towards Big Hill, where Patrick might be. At this stage, there is still no confirmed crime. Alan has been forthcoming, and nothing directly points to anything serious just yet. But by the end of this night, police will have more than one suspect on their hands, and what might be the worst crime this town will ever see. But before we get to that, it's important to note that cases like these can affect the mental health of both the officers and the innocent people involved, and stressful situations in everyone's life can often have the same effect. I hit a point where trying to move on wasn't working, and I didn't really have anyone or give you a sponsor. Really simple. Time at no makes help earn a better health.
That is a good sponsor.
Roughly 2 hours later, deputies arrive at Big Hill, where Patrick was known to frequent for cutting firewood. On the ground, deputies notice tire marks and begin following them, and as they continue along the trail, they spot something in the distance. A red pickup truck matching the description of Patrick's vehicle, with a damaged windshield.
Hello? His windshield.
Yeah, I think that's normal. I believe so. Hey, Pat!
Pat! Pat, it's the Custer County Sheriff's Office! Can you hear us?
Dog's in the seat.
Alive?
What was the dog's name?
Ryder.
Ryder, buddy. Ryder.
It awake?
No, it's not moving.
Dog's been in here a while. He's messed himself. Oh, he's moving. It's definitely a he, by the way. Hi, baby. I'm here, okay. We're gonna get you some water, okay?
Missing its owner. That's
Where'd he go? Where did he go?
Miraculously, Patrick's dog Ryder is still alive after 2 full days, but he's severely dehydrated. As deputies pull Ryder from the vehicle and give him water, they notice something else. Patrick's chainsaw is missing from the truck, suggesting he might still be somewhere nearby. And while they discuss their next steps, Ryder suddenly begins reacting to something in the air.
Alan used his chainsaw.
Dogs like Ryder have a sense of smell up to 100,000 times more powerful than humans, comparable even to trained police canine units. Without realizing it, officers have stumbled onto their strongest lead yet, and Ryder might guide them directly towards the answer they're looking for.
Poor buddy.
What's up? No.
Okay. So that makes me think he could be down lower if he would, because his chainsaw's not here.
Yeah.
He always has his chainsaw. I'm thinking so.
Okay. I'll go with you. I kind of want to walk down there and see if his behavior still points that way.
Right. Let's walk him.
Come on. Dude, you gotta give me a break.
Cobb is out of breath.
President Trump says Andy Barr has his complete and total endorsement.
A wonderful man who's been with me all the way.
Andy Barr, fully endorsed by President Trump.
I'm Andy Barr, and I approve
That's
this.
with respect, not
Andy
disrespect.
Barr.
How long have you been sitting here? I just need to make my video, as who has the collection. What about
We can't go down that. That is a completely down. There is no angle to that. I'm arguing with a dog.
As luck would have it, the dog picks up a scent, but can't pinpoint a specific location. The reason for that is something officers haven't realized yet, because there is no single place where Patrick might be. He's already been dead for 2 nights, dismembered with his own chainsaw, and scattered across the very mountains deputies are now searching. Some of his remains are already floating down the river of no return, just 20 miles from where they're standing. None of this is apparent to deputies yet, so they decide to take a closer look at Patrick's pickup truck for any additional clues. What they notice inside is very sketchy. Dark red staining across the interior, heavily soaked towels on the driver's seat, items marked with blood, and a discarded mail letter with the name Ellen Bruce on it. Something violent happened here. And the more deputies think about it, the more obvious what happened to Patrick becomes. So before the evening ends, they secure the scene and return to town where they talk to other acquaintances of Patrick who collectively make one thing crystal clear. Alan had an ongoing feud with Patrick. He recently moved his motorhome using heavy equipment and damaged it in the process. And he's the only person anyone can think of who might want to hurt Patrick. With that in mind, investigators formally identify Alan Bruce as the primary suspect in Patrick Shelton's disappearance. But the reality and discoveries awaiting investigators in the coming hours are anything but straightforward, as they'll soon find themselves investigating more than one suspect. For the time being, though, search warrants are requested for both properties, and Idaho State Police are called in, bringing in a team of experienced detectives. However, as the multi-agency effort is underway, someone in town is simultaneously running their own homicide cover-up operation. As night falls, Alan moves quietly, continuing to dump body parts and evidence in the river, and burning anything that could tie him to what he's done. At the same time, police's search and rescue units are mobilized, preparing to comb through the surrounding terrain for any sign of Patrick. Around midnight, Deputy Mike is sent to patrol near Patrick's truck, monitoring the area in case anything changes. A few hours into his shift, something does.
Who are you? Stop right there. Just go ahead and stop right there. So what are you coming out here for?
That guy there, Patrick Shelton, that's his stuff. I'm kind of looking after a little bit.
Okay.
Car down here, and I tried to come down here and investigate, see if someone was ripping him off.
Okay.
I didn't know it was you guys.
Okay, well, I turned my lights on, and you still were shining your light at me.
Yeah, you had your lights on me. I couldn't see where I was going.
Okay, I'm saying I turned my red and blue lights on.
Yeah.
And you were still spotlighting me. And then I instructed you to turn it off.
I don't like lights in my eyes about as much as you don't. You know, you had yours and mine, so I guess we're even.
No, it's not even. Okay, so what are you doing? You're just keeping an eye on
Patrick Shelton.
Okay.
Got a little thieving problem going on down here, and I just wanted to make sure you weren't bad guys.
You having a little what problem?
Thieving.
What?
Thievery.
Thievery. Okay.
Yeah, talk to Ethan Kelly about that. He'll tell you.
Okay. All right. So you're just trying to keep an eye on stuff then.
Yeah. Make sure nobody's ripping shit off down here.
Comedian.
Okay.
So, excuse me for if I got you excited.
All right.
Oh man.
270, 240. We can calm down on code 4.
Out here, In complete darkness, Alan Bruce suddenly appears. Nothing about this encounter adds up, because at this point, Alan isn't just the last person to see Patrick alive, he's been in a dispute with him, moved his motorhome after he disappeared, and now he's out here in the middle of the night claiming he's checking on Patrick's property and protecting it from theft. In reality, he came here to finish what he started, to destroy evidence he didn't have time to deal with earlier when deputies interrupted him. Worse yet, just minutes ago, he was at the River of No Return a couple miles away, disposing of what was left of Patrick. Deputy Mike doesn't know any of this yet, but this creepy encounter makes it clear that Alan knows something police don't. Unfortunately for him, this is where things begin to crumble, because coming back here tonight is the mistake that's about to collapse his entire cover-up operation. In the early hours of the following morning, investigators used the overnight developments and the encounter with Alan to accelerate the approval of search warrants. With everything they've seen so far, it's clear Alan knows something they don't, and they need to find out what that is. To do that, they put a plan in motion. First, get Alan off the property, search it, and if any hard evidence is found, bring him back and confront him with it. So while detectives get the search warrants approved, one deputy is sent to Alan's property with a simple objective: get Alan into the car and keep him away from the property to avoid destruction of any evidence. Alan, on the other hand, believes he's already taken care of all the incriminating evidence and that there's nothing left to find. When Deputy Kelly arrives at the lot, Alan has no clue how quickly his entire cover-up plot will come crashing down on him.
Hey, Alan. How's it going? Hopefully your day's a little better than when I last ran into you. You said everything was, well, your truck's still broken down, I guess, so maybe that's not the case. Doing all right? You just hop in the front there.
Sure hope he turns up. He's got unfinished business.
Yeah, he's still got stuff on your property too to get off too, huh? So I mean, y'all were getting along for a while there, but then what happened there even? He just started accusing you of stuff, or?
Yeah. And there was nothing I could say to convince him that wasn't.
Well, I appreciate you being available to just chat with them a bit more. They're the professionals. They've got questions I probably didn't ask you.
Okay.
Even as the deputy tries to subtly probe for more information, nothing useful comes out of it, and Alan sticks to his story. Interestingly though, Alan appears noticeably more relaxed, likely because he's confident that there's no way police can tie him to a crime. Roughly 30 minutes later, deputies and detectives arrive at the property. While Alan waits inside his car, the discovery of the evidence he failed to cover up starts with Patrick's motorhome.
Sheriff's office, make yourself known.
That's probably where he wasted him at. In his very own RV. I guess.
Trident Vibes. A soft gum with a juicy experience. It's a vibe.
Honey, Mortgage Money 6 says we should keep renting.
Mortgage Money 6?
Reba says more realtor agents recommend Realtor.com. They track every market so you know when to make your move.
He also says that Bigfoot... Got it.
Make it real with...
What this is. Got a gun case?
Patrick's empty gun box is consistent with earlier statements that he always keeps a firearm with him. The problem is, that gun is nowhere to be found in the motorhome, and it was never found in his pickup truck the previous day. With Patrick's motorhome cleared, officers move over to Alan's property. Alan owns multiple structures and vehicles on the lot, and after clearing a few of them, deputies find no obvious signs of a crime. It seems like Alan's cover-up operation is successful so far, but that begins to change as deputies notice something unusual lingering across parts of the property.
Already did, man. Cool.
Something stinks. Oh, it stinks bad.
Just kind of pull that one down.
So we're gonna We're just gonna hold on this trailer till we can get keys. If he won't give us keys, then we'll go from there. But we need to hold on this until we get that.
Probably in that freshly moved.
Do we want to call out the cadaver dog?
Let's go ahead and do it while we're here. We've got it cleared. It might be the best way to get something to hold him.
As the search continues, deputies can smell an odor of burnt meat across parts of the lot, but no clear source. After checking around the structures again and searching the open areas, they can't find anything. So, to pinpoint the source, deputies call in a cadaver dog trained to detect human remains. And a few minutes later, police canine Spy arrives on scene. After running the dog across the property, Spy begins alerting to the presence of something inside a set of barrels.
I'm rolling.
Yo.
Cleaned out.
Yeah, that's blood. Okay, so it's not looking, yeah. It would have been blurred if there was something catching in there.
No, we got our window.
In a burned spot.
Ah.
Latex gloves, windows.
This guy's dumb.
Mm-hmm. And doggy treats.
I'm gonna get a backed up picture.
Okay, yeah.
Inside the barrel, officers begin to uncover what Alan tried to hide. Broken window glass of a car consistent with a bullet impact, latex gloves, and traces of blood on the filter of a vacuum cleaner. After searching other barrels, officers find night vision binoculars, Patrick's baseball cap marked with blood, and most concerning of all, bone fragments and suspected human remains on multiple pieces of clothing. Additional items are recovered as well, including ammunition and magazines, but no firearms, suggesting the weapons may have been moved or hidden somewhere else. Among the findings, detectives note the missing firearms, the lack of any intact remains, and the speed at which the scene appears to have been cleaned, something particularly peculiar, leading them to consider that Alan may not have acted alone. After these discoveries, Alan's property is officially treated as a crime scene. The area is secured and forensic examiners are called in to process the evidence. Detectives now have the hard evidence they need to confront Alan. But while they prepare to do so, an unexpected development happens when Alan's younger brother Larry suddenly shows up at the scene. Hours earlier, police received an oddly...
His brother helped him. I'm not going to jump to conclusions here, but I think that his brother helped him. Might have helped him. I don't know, but I'm gonna pinpoint this, and hopefully I'm right. But if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I think it's his brother right now that helped him.
timed phone call from him, claiming that if
I don't think that he helped him execute the guy. I don't think that. I think it was just him that executed him, and I think the brother just helped him cover it all up.
anything happened to Patrick, it was his own fault. Not only that, Larry made additional statements about Patrick that led detectives to question whether they might be dealing with a second suspect.
Yeah, he's been stealing shit of my brother's, and he said Pat's threatened him and waved a big-ass gun at him. Somebody else said that he's a straight-up thief. Shelton's an opportunist. He's going to take advantage of anything that he can, you know, if he thinks he can get away with it.
Right. Okay, so he was kind of concerned Patrick might do something stupid, use a gun or something.
Concerned Pat's going to kill him, you know?
Right.
On the call, Larry made it clear that Patrick was the aggressor and the one who had been threatening Alan, leading investigators to suspect he might know more than what he shared on the phone. So naturally, their suspicions rise when he arrives at the search warrant scene unannounced. Once detectives begin speaking with him, Larry seems confident he can prove that Patrick was the problem.
Howdy. How's it going? And you are?
I'm Alan's brother.
Okay, I'm Sergeant Tuttle with the State Police. So obviously, your brother got himself in a lot of trouble.
That's what it sounds like.
It's starting to rain. You want to go in the trailer? We can go sit in the trailer where we're not getting rained on. You said that Shelton, is that the guy's name?
Patrick Shelton, yeah.
Okay. And he was threatening your brother, right?
Right.
And so is that something your brother told you, or do you have other knowledge of that?
That's something my brother told me. My brother said, hey, he pulled a pistol and waved it in my face and threatened me, and
And how long ago did your brother tell you that? About a week?
That was probably about 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
If somebody was waving a gun at me, I'd probably be, wanting to have something to defend myself too,
Right.
But, my brother had been asking Shelton to move for months.
Okay.
And Shelton was like, well, f you, basically. So my brother took the little road grader, the little dozer, and pulled his stuff and put it out here on the other side of the fence.
Stuff. Is this something your brother told you, or is this something you saw?
As far as moving the stuff? Yeah, I came by the day that he was moving stuff on the way home. What I done know, when my brother had moved the stuff just to try to get the pressure off of my brother, I texted Shelton and I told him, hey, I moved your crap off of my brother's lot. So then he texted me back when he got to town going, I got a beef with you. I mean, Shelton's a drunk and a dope fiend. Okay, so I told him you're f***ing up, not getting your junk off my brother's lot. That was off Alan's lot. That was May 3rd.
Okay.
He goes, I'm trying. I'm broke down, trying to get a ride.
Then you said, never mind, I moved it for you. Give Alan back whatever you took it his.
Yeah, he goes, who is this? Alan's brought the beef to me anyway. I don't have any of his shit. Well, Alan kept showing me pictures of stuff that was missing, where it was and missing, and Patrick was like one of the only people in here. So, Archie, I have a beef with you too.
Okay.
Let's put, bring your beef. We know who you are, drug addicts. Just remember, you f***ed me, you f***ed with all of us. And I'd taken pictures from the sheriff's office parking lot thinking that, well, maybe he'd think I'm a sheriff and maybe he'd pack his shit and, or leave Alan alone and get the f*** out of town, So I put, with me, with all of us, you'll lose. Best thing for you to do is pack up and leave Custer County and don't come back.
Alan's brother goes on to pull up additional messages between him and Patrick. The messages he shares show the feud escalating over time, primarily over Patrick refusing to move his property off the land and accusations that he'd been stealing from Alan. As detectives read through them, it becomes clear that Alan's brother wasn't just aware of the conflict, he was involved in it at some point. This only adds to investigators' suspicions, so instead of continuing to circle around it, the detective says exactly what he's thinking.
Eve to me is basically freedom. It's a giant open universe where...
Yeah, it's...
And no sign of Shelton though, huh? Find a body or anything? Or
there's signs of Shelton, just not living signs of Shelton. One of the things I'm trying to wrap my head around is... I'm like, how did he do that by himself? He's not a very big guy. Like, how would he move things around without somebody helping him? Like, if he, let's just say that if he shot Shelton and took him somewhere and dumped his body, who would he call to help him?
I have no fucking clue. I mean, he wouldn't call me.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Does he have good friends that...
I don't know. I don't know what he's capable of, I mean...
Right.
That's what they
I
all
don't know anybody that would help him move something, help him commit a crime,
You're not the last person or the first person to say all this.
I mean, my wife would shoot me if I helped him,
How long you been married?
Since 2016.
Yeah, she'd murder you.
9 years. Yeah. Last night, she's like going, well, this and that, and what if it was Alan? What if he comes and kills us in our sleep, I was like, you know, because I mean, she was watching that Criminal Minds for a long time, you know, after she retired from the DA, you know, it's like, you know, serial killers, you know.
Tell her Bab is Custer County. You know, don't worry about serial killers. When it's all said and done, everybody will know everything.
You can pick your friends,
That will all
and you can pick your nose, but you can't pick your family.
On that interesting remark, Larry shifts from defending his brother to no longer being certain and begins to see things the way investigators do. With nothing else to add, police wrap up the interview with Larry, still uncertain of his involvement. Now they can finally turn their attention back to Alan, who's still sitting in the car, completely unaware of what's just been uncovered on his lot. At this point, investigators have enough to place Alan under arrest and pursue homicide charges. The problem is, they don't have a body, and they don't have a confession, both of which are critical in building a solid case, especially when it comes to proof.
They can test the blood inside the container to see if it matches Patrick's.
Proving exactly what happened and how. But with the evidence discovered on his property, this is their best chance to confront Alan directly and push for a confession. The stakes are extremely high. If Alan plays his cards right, a skilled defense attorney can create just enough reasonable doubt to get him out of this scot-free.
We've got a cadaver dog hitting on other spots on the property that have bone fragments. And the only thing that dog is trained to hit on is dead humans. You know, there was only 2 people here that night, you and him, right? There's nobody else that I can talk to. Can't find him. And if you didn't do it and somebody else did, can you point me in the right direction?
I can't do that. I don't know anybody else is out here.
No, that's like I said, I don't either.
Even after hearing this, Alan continues his denial. But this is exactly why investigators brought him back to the property. It's a part of a strategy known as crime scene exposure. Experienced detectives use this technique to confront suspects with something directly tied to the crime, like the scene itself or key pieces of evidence. This creates psychological pressure, making it harder to maintain a lie, and often triggering unexpected reactions or slips in their story. So investigators take Alan out of the car and bring him back to the center of the lot, back to the very place where everything likely happened, to see if he will finally break.
Well, we want to be able to tell the prosecutor you helped us every which way you could.
I can conduct my case and go to prison for the rest of my life. What?
I don't know. I can't tell you what the prosecutor.
I gotta go through the jury trial now.
You don't have to go through nothing right now. Yeah. So the way it works here is he doesn't feel like we should let you stay free, right? So we're still going to continue to investigate this case with your help or without your help. We're still going to dig through.
Yeah. I mean, there's still some things that like concern me, like, and I don't know if you're asking about like who drove the truck up in the mountains.
Someone in jail without any evidence.
Nobody drove it. I towed it up there.
Oh, you towed it up there?
Yeah.
Okay. With which vehicle?
Already good evidence right
Okay.
now. With the blood in the container.
Oh, okay. What'd you do with the dog?
Left it in the truck.
The gloves,
the
belongings to
Not just in the truck.
your boy Patrick.
You
know,
Oh, the dog didn't do nothing.
I didn't want to kill it.
Yeah.
It didn't do nothing.
Yeah. So
just, I mean, we're in a rock and a hard place right now, right? It's where we've been all day. It's where we're going to continue to be until we can completely wrap this up and figure out what the hell actually happened.
Well, before you take it down, I can lock on myself.
Okay. Well,
yeah, we're not going to leave this unsecured.
We like that.
I mean, we'll
lock it all up and bring you the keys.
Close the gate.
Yeah.
But then call. I'm in trouble.
Well, that's part of it, but you also destroyed some evidence.
What did you?
I don't know. I've never been in that situation.
Alan. Dude, come on. Did you burn a body? Come on.
Yeah, I did.
And you didn't tell anybody. So, like, look at it from our point of view. You know, we do the right thing for Patrick's family. You know what I mean? We gotta try to find that body. You know, we gotta do the right thing for his family.
There is no body found. He was reduced down to nothing. Nothing.
Did you chop him up?
No, I threw him in a burn barrel with a bunch of wood underneath him. And, yeah, I chopped him up. I took a chainsaw to him.
Okay, where's the chainsaw?
It's gone. It's
Found
gone.
Did you throw it in the river?
I got rid of it. Believe me, I burned it.
You burnt the chainsaw?
Yeah.
Is it in the barrel? And I've never chainsawed a body, but I think there would be like blood and skin and gristle and stuff, you know.
Yeah, it was ugly.
And so, like, where's that at? How did you clean that up?
Took a shovel and rake, ripped up everything I could, walked it down with a hose, and put Clorox on it.
And the chainsaw's where?
Keep the burn barrel, burned it last day.
Alan finally cracks, admitting that he shot Patrick, dismembered him, and burned the body before disposing of the remains. With a confession now on record, investigators turn their attention to a critical question. Did Alan act alone, or is there something even darker he's still hiding? But before detectives can press further, Alan makes a surprising claim.
He came up with that pistol, was gonna do me.
And we're not arguing. We're not arguing that point. We're just trying to figure out like what you did with the body, how you did it, and where it's at, if there's anything left.
It makes no sense.
Not much.
Did you have any help with it?
I see if you shoot, shut up, and shovel.
Unless you cut him up.
Do you see our point? I mean, what we're trying to do at all,
Guilty as charged.
Alan?
You're not charged yet, but you're guilty.
I tried to hide it and get away with it.
Yeah. And like I said, we're just trying to, get some closure for his family and present the picture so that everybody understands why you did what you did.
Said you better pull the trigger. Mother, things come up with the gun. At that point, it was me or him, but.
At Planet Fitness, we know how important it is to take care of both your mind and body. That's
Despite Alan's claims that he killed Patrick in self-defense, it hardly explains the brutality and concealment that followed. Following this, Alan is arrested and charged with first-degree murder along with multiple additional charges. Later that day, dive teams and officers are sent to the river area where Alan claimed he dumped the remains. But despite extensive search efforts, nothing of evidentiary value is recovered. In the days that follow, police obtain a warrant to search Alan's phone, where they find the most critical evidence in the case. On Alan's phone, detectives find a hostile exchange from May 7th, where Patrick texts Alan, "You will be seeing me soon. Make your peace." And Alan responds, "Never be at my place after dark or else." But it's in the camera roll where they find what they had been unable to locate for days. A photo of Patrick, dead inside the cab of his truck with his silver pistol next to him. The photo was taken at 6:25 a.m. on May 8th. When asked about it, Alan claims he took the photo as proof, in case he ever needed it. A couple months later, in July 2025, police receive a call from fishermen reporting a burn barrel floating in a different area of the Salmon River. Officers and divers recover the barrel and transport it for forensic examination, but no human remains or items linked to Patrick are found inside, likely because everything had already been destroyed or lost in the River of No Return. As for the missing firearms, investigators later uncover both the rifle and Patrick's silver pistol at the residence of an associate of Alan. The man claims Alan brought the weapons to him, asking him to sell them. And with no evidence tying his associates or his brother to the homicide or the cover-up, investigators determine that Alan acted alone. In October 2025, Alan's initial charges were reduced to second-degree murder and destruction of evidence after Alan entered an Alford plea, meaning he maintains his innocence while acknowledging that prosecutors have enough evidence to convict him. In November 2025, a judge denies Alan's last-minute attempt to withdraw the plea and sentences him to 20 years in prison. He must serve at least 10 years before becoming eligible for parole, meaning he will get a chance to walk free in his 80s. But given the severity of the crime, there is a very real possibility he never leaves prison at all.
I hope that possibility is true. I don't want that guy walking free, bro. He done cut up a body. He should get life, bro. Yeah, I mean, many people don't make it to the 80s. That guy already looks like he's 80. Actually, 90, if you want to think about it. so I don't think he's living very long. But yeah, bro, if you cut up someone's body, I ain't gonna lie, bro. Yeah, you belong in jail. There's no way. You're a menace.
Okay. It's on some chart right here, they're saying. The truck, there was a truck that must have backed up right here, they say, right? Okay.
Is that okay? Back up, please. Back up. Back. Oh my God. Okay, back up, please. Back up.
Officers report to a seemingly routine traffic incident in Moses Lake, Washington. What no officer on scene realizes is that this encounter would be the start of a terrifying investigation, leading to the most dark and twisted body cam footage we've ever shown on this channel.
But if you want justice,
I already know who did it.
Listen to me, please.
Get out of your car and come get my kid. Put him in cuffs right now.
Don't say anything right now. We don't know. Dad, did you do it? Look at me. Dad, did you do it?
Positive affirmations help keep me grounded on and off the pitch. I am successful. I am talented. I am strong. I'm healing all areas of my life. Love your mind.
If you want internet that's fast, reliable, and affordable,
says family discovers missing dad's head inside garbage bag.
It's an early Sunday afternoon on November 3rd when officers patrolling downtown Moses Lake identify a truck matching a stolen vehicle report logged just hours earlier. Multiple police units have been dispatched, more than typically assigned to a stolen vehicle report. Almost as if, from the very start, police somehow knew this vehicle theft report would soon unravel into something much worse.
145 Mac. We're slow rolled in. Parking at Porterhouse.
Inside the vehicle is 27-year-old professional athlete Isaiah Thomas, the former A-star wide receiver for Eastern Oregon University, who is currently armed with a weapon.
Whoa. Hey, go and get out of the car. Get out of the truck, please. Here's what happened. The truck was reported as stolen. Whose truck is this? You talk to me, man. It's my truck. It's your truck? Yeah. Okay. Do you have your ID, registration? Just go ahead and turn it off, please. I apologize if it's your truck, but it wasn't registered in your name, man. Yeah, I know. Okay.
There's ammunition in the front seat.
Okay. Okay. Hands on the wheel. Gonna be okay. All right, man. Just come on and step out of the car, okay?
The ammunition on the passenger seat suggests that Isaiah might be carrying a weapon. The officer quickly realizes that this encounter could escalate at any moment, so they swiftly order him out of the vehicle, only to uncover something interesting about his identity.
What up, Greg?
What's up, man?
Alvarado?
Yeah, how you doing, Isaiah?
Another day.
Another day?
Okay, don't come here. Don't reach for anything.
You're gonna detain you right now?
No, bro. Okay, make sure you don't have any weapons on you, okay? I do got a weapon on me. What do you have? I think I got a knife right here in my knife pocket. Yeah. Pocket knife? This one? That's it? Okay.
Gotta take a seat home.
I want a lawyer so bad, though.
Okay.
It's ridiculous how bad I need one, no?
I hear you.
You knew you.
Yeah, so I went to high school with him. He was a star athlete, man. Then they started talking, it was kind of weird. Yeah, but...
It turns out Officer Alvarado and Isaiah went to high school together, and Alvarado recalls Isaiah as a standout football player who went on to compete at the college level. But now in front of him was a disoriented young man, barely able to focus and answer their questions in a stolen vehicle. A stark contrast to the athlete Alvarado once knew. In reality, there is a very good reason for Isaiah's odd behavior. One that Officer Alvarado will soon understand, as within minutes, Isaiah and his family will be at the center of a murder investigation, with only one question left unsolved. For now, officers decide to contact Isaiah's family to inform them of his recent actions and detainment. They quickly get his family contact details and call his mother, 47-year-old Cassie Thomas. However, the information Cassie provides shifts the course of the investigation in an unexpected way.
Hello? Hello, this is Officer Alvarado with the Mosaic Police Department. I'm trying to reach Cassie.
This is she.
Hey, do you have a son, Isaiah?
Yes, I do.
We had a call earlier about him being in someone else's vehicle. He's in a truck now, a gray Chevy Silverado.
Okay.
We're trying to figure out if this is his truck or not, because he's saying it is, but the person that called about him said that he stole the truck from another neighbor.
No, that's his and his grandfather's.
Okay, who's his grandpa, if you don't mind me asking?
Richard.
Richard?
Yeah, he probably let him borrow it. He's staying with his grandfather right now.
What's the address?
430 Dale.
Yep, that's where the truck was taken.
Okay, that's weird.
Yeah, no, that clarifies something, because we thought potentially this truck might have been stolen, so we were trying to figure it out.
No, I'm sorry about that.
No worries.
At this point, Officer Alvarado begins to realize the mistake they've made. Now it makes sense why Isaiah immediately asked for a lawyer. He was being accused of something he clearly didn't do. As Officer Alvarado continues speaking with Isaiah's mom, he decides to ask about something that's been worrying him since the very moment Isaiah stepped out of the truck.
I went to high school with Isaiah. He never really like this. Is everything okay?
It should be. He should be fine.
Okay. He just seemed a little bit off to me when he was talking.
Well, probably because he's being accused of something he didn't do. So.
On Biden and Kamala's watch, 400,000 illegal immigrants with criminal convictions were roaming America's streets. Thomas Massie didn't care. He voted with the Democrats against Trump's plan to deport criminal aliens. On May 19th, fire Thomas Massie.
Northern Tool and Equipment. Get serious.
It's his grandpa's truck. Yeah, he lives at 430 Dale. But thank you for answering my phone calls and my questions. It actually helps out a lot.
Okay, all right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Officer Alvarado doesn't know it yet, but his suspicion that something is very wrong with Isaiah isn't far from the truth. Still, with no evidence tying Isaiah to a crime, they have no choice but to release him. But as he walks away, Officer Alvarado follows him, hoping to reconnect with his old friend.
Arba, let's walk